What's going on, YouTube? So Infiniti is in the middle of a brand revitalization right now, and they're doing that by refreshing or redesigning their most popular and important models. And what I'm standing next to right now is perhaps their most important model. This is their redesigned flagship, the QX80, and it sees an all-new trim level for 2026. So after living with this Japanese QX80 for a week, is it worth a look over established American alternatives like the Escalade and Navigator? Let's go ahead and find out.
Let's start things out under the hood with a quick spec dump. Now, under the hood of this all-new QX80 is a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 making 450 horsepower. It's paired to a 9-speed automatic standard 4-wheel drive for this sport model, and your combined fuel economy is 17 mpg combined.
Now, the base price of the QX80 this year is $84,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we'll take this out for a spin later on to show you the performance, get things like our sound level reading, and discuss things like our real-world fuel economy.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood and check out all of the exclusive elements for this new sport trim level. So starting out here with the exterior design, you can see what Infiniti did to elevate the QX80 for its newest generation. It's really kind of an evolutionary update. You can still tell that it is their flagship model at the end of the day. And as Mason was saying in the introduction, you do have a new trim level for 2026, and that would be the Sport that you see right here. That does replace what was known as the Sensory model in 2025. Now, you do have some exclusive elements for that Sport model, namely down here at the bottom where you have this splitter as part as a body kit that goes around the entirety of the vehicle for this Sport model. We did show this car to some people this week, and they were kind of split 50-50 on whether or not they liked it, but overall most people liked the general design for the QX80. Now, when it comes to your grille, you're going to have a lot of dark elements for this model, as well as the top autograph, as well as an illuminated emblem. And speaking of lighting, you do have a split LED headlight unit. Starting at the top, you have your dual turn signal indicator as well as daytime running light. And then down here, you actually have your actual unit itself, which is a projector LED unit. You do have some animations when you exit and enter the vehicle as well. Now, going back down to the bottom as well, I do want to mention that you do have some adjustment in your ground clearance with the air suspension. You can have up to 10 inches of total ground clearance. Now, when it comes to your wheels, all but the base model will have 22-inch alloy designs. You get a new one with the Sport trim this year. It's a almost fully black finish, although you do have some chrome elements tracing the edge of the wheel. Again, it was about hit or miss whether or not people like this design or not. You're gonna have body color arches and accents all throughout the vehicle. And then you do have black mirrors since we do have the black roof. As far as your features are gonna be fully loaded on every single model: heating, blind spot monitoring, power folding, and auto dimming. The only addition is that the Sport and the Autograph trim levels will get passenger side auto dimming as well.
Now, at the side, overall vehicle length for this model is 211.2 inches, which is a pretty good size. That's very competitive with things like the standard wheelbase Escalade. Just be aware you cannot get an extended wheelbase, so it's a one-size-fits-all type of vehicle. Now, as far as design choices, we have a little bit of a darkened chrome down here at the bottom part. As Josh was mentioning earlier, we do have the two-tone roof option. That's available on Sport and Autograph trim levels. You can get a black roof or even a gray roof with certain exterior color combinations, which really makes this vehicle stand out, as well as these pop-out door handles. Now, let's go ahead and head around to the rear design of the QX80. Of course, this is a flagship level vehicle, so it needs to have a very premium look to the design, and I have to say, it does look quite premium. So up here at the top, we have a integrated spoiler. Our wiper is underneath of there. We have some more of that darkened trim, and our taillights are going to be full length all the way across the back. Now, they also have a little bit of a darkened finish to them, and of course they are fully LED. That includes your brake light, your amber turn signal indicator, and your LED reverse light. Your Infiniti branding is going to be darkened as well. The Sport model actually adds an S badge, so it kind of looks like it would be maybe higher performance. We'll talk a little bit more about the powertrain in just a little bit. And then as far as your tow capacity, it comes in at 8,500 pounds. And let's talk safety systems. Of course, this is a flagship level product. All of your active safety features will be standard equipment on the QX80. That includes things like ProPilot 1.1. However, if you want ProPilot 2.1, you can get that here on this model. That allows for some hands-free driving. That's just going to be an option package even on your higher end examples, so do keep that in mind. I kind of wish that was maybe included as standard. But guys, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the interior, including some sport exclusive elements that are new for 2026. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars.
As Mason was saying, we do have some sport exclusive elements, so let's go ahead and check out the interior. But let's start out with your key. Nothing special here. It will be Infiniti's standard key fob design. You have standard smart entry as well as remote start on every single QX80 model. And as I approach the cabin, the door handles will pop out for me, and as I open the door, it will fold out the mirrors for me. All right, so here it is, the all-new sport cabin for the QX80 this year. Before we check out some of the individual elements, let's start talking about the seats. So standard on the QX80 is leatherette seating, and then as you move up the trim levels, you'll go to leather seats, and then finally on the sport and above, you'll have this semi-aniline leather seating. This is a really nice and supple feeling leather, very high quality grade of leather. And then on the sport, you have this exclusive color, which is dusk blue. It's kind of a navy color. I really like it overall. It's a unique touch for this model. You can also get colors like red on the Autograph. Now, as far as your seating adjustments, you do have standard 10 ways of power adjustment. And then on the sport and above, you unlock things like massage as well as power bolster adjustment. The massage is okay. It's only on the lumbar for this model. You also have standard memory seating, but let's go ahead and climb on inside and check out the rest of the materials and details. Now that we're inside, I do want to mention that there are no power running boards or soft closed doors for any QX80 model. Now let's take a look at the cabin materials. They're going to be quite impressive. Lots of leather all over the door trim with stitching details all throughout. On the Sport, you also have some suede accents down here and a Sport exclusive trim with an open pore finish. As you move up to the top, everything is going to continue to be leather wrapped. Everything you're touching has leather on it, including stitching details all along the dashboard here. Really nice and plush overall, and then everything is padded here in the center with some more suede as well. Overall, this is a really impressive cabin, and we enjoyed living with it this week. But let's go and start it up with the standard push button start. All right, let's continue our tour. There's a lot to talk about with this flagship SUV. Let's start out with our gauge cluster though. You're gonna have a standard 14.3-inch display as part of this dual screen setup that Infiniti introduced for this new generation. There's gonna be quite a few different customizations as well, including putting a map in the cluster, which is quite nice. Moving up above, all but the base model will have a head-up display, which can also display your navigation information. And then moving back to the steering wheel, this is one of our favorite parts. This has the standard premium leather on the Sport and above, which really makes this one of the softest steering wheels with tons of branding and contrast stitching as well, and a leather-wrapped airbag cover. All steering wheels on the QX80 though are leather wrapped, heating, and power adjusting with rain sensing wipers as well. But let's continue to talk about storage. This is a big SUV after all. You need to store plenty of things for your family, starting with our center console. Inside we have our donuts, which are our Car Confections logo. We performed the donut test to check out center console volume. Inside you're going to have 17 donuts, which is the most we have been able to fit in a QX80 because only the Autograph model, which we've tested so far, has the cool box, which is available, but only for that top trim. Now closing that up, I can pop open two other storage cubbies. This has your standard wireless phone charging pad, as well as a few USBs, and then over here you have your two cup holders as well. Storage doesn't stop there though, because if Mason can lean over to the side, you do have full center pass-through storage as well. Now that is courtesy to your piano keys push button shifter that you have for this new model. You just push D for drive. You can push it again for some paddle shifter shifting. And then when you go into reverse, you have a standard 360-degree camera, really clear resolution. It's nice and big on the screen as well, and you have a lot of different views you can choose from, including a full screen front camera when you are in park. And then you just press the P to put it in park. Now, as we keep moving up, you will have an additional display here for the QX80 that does differ from its mainstream Armada sibling, but this is a 9-inch display here to control all of your climate functions. You have a standard 3-zone automatic climate system. You can go through the different zones here and control things like your heated and ventilated seats. Heating is standard, ventilation comes on all but your base model. And then you can also go into your drive modes as well. Overall, it's pretty responsive, although you do have to press quite hard for some haptic feedback. And then as you continue moving up, you'll have your physical audio knob here. Standard on all QX80s is a 14-speaker Klipsch audio system, but when you go on the Sport and above, you get the upgraded 24-speaker Klipsch Reference Premier audio system. And let's go ahead and give it a sample. Oh yeah, guys, that is certainly up there with one of our favorite audio systems. This performs super well, and as Mason was just showing off there, you do get the headrest speakers, when you go for that top audio system. Now, as Mason was panning through the cabin, you might have seen the branding over here. This is part of your ambient lighting. You have a few strips going throughout the cabin. Overall, it is not the best when it comes to luxury SUVs, and if you want to check that out in full detail, we do have a night review from last year's Autograph model. Now let's check out the display here. Like I said, this is a 14.3-inch display as part of this new dual setup that Infiniti brought out for the new QX80. Has a lot of functionality. I'm in wireless CarPlay right now, and it also has wireless Android Auto. And then you have a lot of different things like built-in navigation with Google built in, and a lot of different functionality. As you can see, the menus work pretty well, and sometimes you have a little bit of lag, but overall it's a pretty smooth system. Now up top, you have a smart camera mirror on this model, standard auto dimming for all QX80s. And then you don't get a suede headliner for the Sport model. That's only on the Autograph, but you will get a standard panoramic sunroof, and the front panel does open up if I can get it to go all the way back.
All right, so let's dive into the rear seats of the QX80. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to a flagship luxury SUV's second row seats, and let's go ahead and dive in. So first and foremost, I want to hit your space figures. What we're sitting at is 38 inches of legroom, 36 inches of headroom. So as far as legroom and headroom figures, it's actually not fantastic compared to things like the Escalade or the Navigator. Those will have more rear seat room, so do keep that in mind. However, it's still plenty of space, that's for sure. Now, this seat is adjusted to Josh's 5'9" driving position. I'm 5'9" as well, and we're still sitting at about 10.5 inches of knee room with the seat slid all the way back, so keep that in mind. There's still plenty of space, that's for sure. My feet can also slide up underneath of the seats, and speaking of the seats, we've got to talk about these. You may notice that we have captain's chairs. That's actually standard equipment on every single QX80. The only thing is that if you want bench seating to increase your seating capacity, you can get that on all trim levels besides for the Autograph. If you choose for the captain's chairs, you also get things like this center console area with 2 cup holders inside, 2 USB ports, and it's also leather wrapped. If you choose the Autograph, you have that full center console design. And by the way, if you want to learn all about the Autograph, we did do an extensive video on that you can go ahead and check out. Now, we're not done yet, though, when it comes to features, because you have a ton of features. You'll notice that we actually have fully power adjusting second row seats, so I can slide these forward and back a good distance. I can also recline these seats a good distance, and that's included on all but your very base QX80s, so that's definitely a nice feature to be included. The only thing I hate about these seats is the fact that this armrest is so hard. We actually call this the hard rest internally at the Car Confections team because it is so hard. And also up here in the front, this part where your elbow is going to rest is also as hard as a rock. I really wish Infiniti would improve that maybe in the next model year or so. Now, if we look at the center area, you'll find a lot of features. We have our own climate zone. We also have heated and ventilated seats as well. So tons and tons of luxury, 2 USB ports, a 12-volt power outlet, and let's look at the door trim. So the door trim is going to be nicely done. We have leather on really pretty much all of it. Nice metal speaker grills as well. There's also plenty of door storage. You just don't have any rear sunshades, which I'm a little disappointed by. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the third row of seats. In order to get back here, all I do is press this button right here, wait for the beep, and then that is going to fully get the second row of seats out of the way. It is actually not too slow at all, and as you can see, the seat back does not move, so that does mean you could leave a car seat installed. I think that's pretty important. Escalade actually would have to have you remove the car seat, that is for sure. Now, let's go ahead and check out the third row of the QX80. Now, once I get my headrest adjusted up here, as you can see, I am very comfortable when it comes to this third row. They've really improved that for this all-new generation. 32.9 inches of legroom, about 36 inches of headroom, so that's really good numbers for this segment. It's very much on par with things like Escalade and Navigator. Even with this seat slid all the way back, I still have about 2 inches of additional knee room, which is really good. My feet can slide up underneath of the seats, and I think most importantly is the fact that these third row seats have really excellent thigh support, so it definitely makes yourself a lot more comfortable. Now, let's talk about features. We have 2 cup holders on each side. We additionally have a USB-C port. You'll notice this button right here, that's actually to power recline the third row seat, so you can recline a pretty good distance to further increase your comfort. Autograph would give you a heated third row. It's also going to give you the semi-aniline leather seats here in the third row. This is just, I guess, a faux leather or maybe a real leather, and it's still pretty supple, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that. We have vents coming out of the ceiling. So overall, this third row is really good. This is definitely fit for adults. All right, so let's go ahead and check out the cargo area. In order to get back here, we have a standard hands-free power tailgate, as you might expect, and let's go ahead and see what cargo capacity we're sitting at. So according to Infiniti, we're sitting at around 22 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. If I fold the third row down, which by the way I can do easily with these buttons right here, it's a standard one-touch power fold third row on every single QX80. That gives me a rating of around 59 cubic feet behind the second row. And if I fold all the seats and get that maximum capacity, which I can also easily do with the press of a button because we have the full power seats, that gives me the full 101 cubic feet of space. Now, for those of you that might have an Escalade, you may know that the Escalade is a little bit more overall cargo capacity than that. However, it's still a very good number for the segment. It's definitely going to be pretty competitive. And speaking of the segment, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the luxury large flagship SUVs on the market and ranked them in things like cargo capacity, interior luxury, powertrain choices, space and features in the second row, and you'll definitely want to pay attention to that, even things like value, so you can see the best options in each of those categories depending on what's most important to you, so you can make an informed buying decision. Now, of course, it's a big SUV. Let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. Now, I do have my tape measure with me. It's not my official tape measure, but it'll do the trick. From behind Josh's 5'9" seating position, we're looking at 87 inches of cargo length. From behind the second row, with it slid all the way back, about 48 inches of length. And from behind the third row, let me go ahead and get that. That's going to be a little bit less at only about 14 inches. As far as the opening, that's really good, 51 inches wide, and the height is a very solid 33 inches tall. So really amazing numbers when it comes to the QX80, when it comes to the overall measurements. And let's get our load-in height. Now, this is one area that I'm a little disappointed by. 35 inches is your load-in height. Now, one of the things that's good about this model is the air suspension. So I can press this button right here, and that is actually going to go ahead and lower the air suspension. You can hear it working right now to lower this vehicle down, and that's definitely going to help my load-in height. 35 inches is a high load-in height, and let's see how low will it go. There we go. She dropped it low to the ground. Let's see how much of a difference that makes. 3 inches. 3 inches of difference. Just keep in mind, you do have to get past this big bumper design to load things in, so that's going to make things a little bit more difficult anyway. And as far as underfloor storage, you have a little bit of space under there. You have a spare tire that's integrated underneath the bumper as well. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Infiniti QX80 Sport. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading and discussing things like our real-world fuel economy. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration. All right, there's a little bit past 60 miles per hour in the QX80 Sport. Now, as you can see from that acceleration here, we may have less cylinders than the previous generation QX80, but we certainly have more power. This is a very quick option. Like we were saying at the spec dump, this is a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 under the hood. It makes 450 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque. That's more horsepower than before, about 50 more horsepower, and well over, I believe, over 100 pound-feet more torque. So really, I think the thing that you really notice is the torque. It pushes you back in your seat very nicely, and also it has a very unique sound to it. They definitely are doing a little bit of amplification here in the QX80 to kind of give you that Nissan Z type of sound, which I think is cool. Maybe you don't like that, but I don't know, it doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, it's no V8 at the end of the day, if that's what you would prefer on the Escalade, but this does have really good power figures. It outpaces a lot of the standard variants that would have a V8 instead. So overall, if you really just care most about power delivery, this would be a great option to go with. Now, when it comes to this sport trim specifically, do want to note, it does not unlock any extra power. That is really more just of the branding and the appearance of this sport model, is to look sporty, and we'll talk more about your actual dynamics later on in this test drive.
Yeah, I think the rolling start is really where you'll feel the benefit of all that torque. And let's talk about our transmission. So what we have is a 9-speed automatic transmission on the QX80. Overall performance is quite good. We lived with the Autograph about a year ago, and then we lived with this model as well, and we really had no issues with this transmission. It's a good pairing to the overall engine combination that they've done for this model. You do also have a standard 2-wheel drive on most versions, and available 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, that 4-wheel drive system will be standard on the Sport and above.
All right, so we're turning on our designated strip of road to discuss things like ride quality. Josh, so what do you think? What do you think about the ride?
Yeah, so overall the ride quality is pretty impressive considering this is a body-on-frame vehicle. Of course, those have the nature to be a little bit less comfortable than something that's on a unibody platform, but when you consider things like the air suspension, which is standard on this sport model, it really does a good job at smoothing out a lot of those bumps, a lot of those road imperfections. You'll only feel like the larger ones, like going over larger potholes, just because at the end of the day, this is body-on-frame. The seats are also really comfortable. They really support you well. And the only thing I'll complain about is that with these speaker headrests, they are a little bit hard when you lean your head back on them.
Yeah, and they can creak from time to time. So if creakiness bothers you, you might not like that too much. Now, let's also get things like our sound level reading. We have it on fan speed 1. The rear climate is turned off, and now we're going 55. So let's see how quiet it is.
57.8 decibels is where we settled in at for this 26 QX80 Sport. I don't have to sit here and guess how this compares to all of its rivals, though. I'll go to carconfections.com/sound level readings to find that out. Now this will put it on the louder end of the segment. Keep in mind it is pretty windy outside today, and we do have the crossbars installed, so that did affect it just a little bit, but it's not too far away from what we tested last year with our Autograph model on that same stretch of road.
Yeah, if you want the quietest options in this flagship space, it's really not going to be your body-on-frame SUVs. It'd be things like the Mercedes-Benz GLS or the BMW X7. Those are really quiet flagships. An acceleration in the sport mode.
It really does have that Nissan Z sound, even maybe a little bit of a Nissan GTR sound, but for an enthusiast, you might not mind it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, I do want to take a second to talk about what happens when you put it into sport mode. Of course, like Josh said, one of the key elements about this QX80 is the air suspension. That's actually standard on, I believe, all but the very base model, and I'm super happy about that because it really does a great job of making this more of a dual character SUV. So when you put it in sport mode, it's going to lower the vehicle down. It can basically slam this product, and we'll talk about driving dynamics in just a second. All right, so we've made it out to the twisty part of the road to talk about dynamics for the QX80. And quite frankly, dynamics is not an area where we normally talk at all in a flagship 3-row SUV, because typically they're pretty bad and it's also not really a focus of the vehicle. But I really think that for this QX80, that is a shining star for this. They have a name for it. I think it's like dynamic digital suspension or whatever. I got it. Okay, nailed it. Amazing. But it utilizes the air suspension to really reduce the body roll of this vehicle. Also, the steering is really quite sharp. So as far as 3-row flagships go that are body on frame, this QX80 really leaves most of the rivals in the dust. Things like the Escalade and the Navigator, they just have so much more body roll. This drives a lot smaller than the actual footprint of this vehicle, which I can see that a lot of people would appreciate, because these are, big vehicles to drive on a country road like this, and this QX80 really feels a lot more at home than some of the rivals. And that today is going to be the slam dunk, because we lived with the Autograph model and now this sport variant, and I really do think that's the most uniquely great thing about the QX80. There's a lot of competition, and the competition's really good, but the driving experience really shines on this model.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, on the airball side of things, we're just going to say we wish Infiniti would pack some more value into this trim and just kind of the lineup as a whole. This is still quite expensive at the end of the day, no matter how much the competition might cost. There are some things that we wish they would include as a whole. Things like a suede headliner, some better massaging seats, some more advanced ambient lighting throughout the cabin. When you get into this segment, it's really the details that count, and we wish they would add in some more luxury for this price tag. Let's also address your fuel economy real quick. For 2-wheel drive models, you'll be sitting at 18 mpg combined. For the 4-wheel drive models, 17 mpg combined, which is slightly better than the former V8 fuel economy. But what have we been getting this week in the real world? Well, we haven't fully completed our week yet just because of the timing of this loan and our travel schedules, but we will insert a picture on the screen right now of what we have gotten performance-wise after we have driven it some more. Overall, initial indications are sitting pretty good. We are sitting just above 18 mpg, which is pretty much on par with the EPA rating. So we will just see what we get at the end of this week.
And do we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it this week? Well, I'm going to say this sport trim, the same. This is, an interesting new trim level for the Infiniti brand. They've had a lot of sales success with their sport models, and, it might not be my personal preference, but I can definitely see why someone might like this QX80 Sport, and there's a lot to like, especially when it comes to the driving dynamics. Now, like I said at the very beginning of the video, this vehicle starts at a pretty high price of around $84,000. The Lux model, which gives you a ton of equipment, I'd probably recommend that one at least, is $91,000 as a starting point. This Sport is another 10 grand. 102 is your starting point, and the Autograph is 112. So basically every trim goes up $10,000. Of course, note that four-wheel drive is an extra cost option. We also have the optional paint on this model, and you can see the full lineup of, options that we went for on this example, but we're sitting at $108,000 for this Sport model. If you're curious as to where it's manufactured, it is manufactured in Japan, which I think is important to some of you guys. And if you're looking to buy an Infiniti QX80 or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale, reliability, and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Infiniti as a brand in 5 years and 60,000 miles is rated at 41.2% of original MSRP estimated retained value, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, we estimate the retained value will be 17.16%. Now, it's worth noting that is definitely below industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it is very much on par with other luxury manufacturers on the German side, such as BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi.
Now, when it comes to reliability, we have created our combined reliability index to take into account a variety of different sources on overall estimated reliability. When it comes to this, Infiniti is rated just above the overall industry average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about resale values, reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Now let's talk about your warranty. You do have a very good warranty for the Infiniti brand. It's better than the German rivals at 4 years, 60,000 miles for your basic warranty. Powertrain is 6 years and 70,000 miles, and you do also get complimentary maintenance for 3 years. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Infiniti QX80. If you enjoyed hearing our real-world impressions, all the 2026 changes on this model, and more, we'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.